pour a little soy sauce onto a white spoon and tilt it. If it slides off like thin, dark water and leaves the spoon almost clean, here's the uncomfortable truth. You didn't buy soy sauce. You bought salt, coloring, and a word on the label that isn't legally required to mean anything at all. And here's the part nobody tells you. That's not your fault. You did everything right. You bought the brand your family always bought, the one that says authentic on the front, the one your doctor's diet sheet practically pointed you toward. The bottle did exactly what it was designed to do. Look like tradition while quietly skipping the 12 months that make tradition real. Every fact in this video comes straight off the ingredient label or the public safety record. No taste test theater, no trust me. Just what's printed on the back that the front is hoping you never turn the bottle over to read. So before we start, do one thing for me. Drop the soy sauce brand sitting in your kitchen right now in the comments. The exact one. By the end, you'll know precisely where it landed and whether it belongs in the trash or earns its spot on the shelf. Because here's the rule that runs this entire list. The front of the bottle is marketing. The back is the truth. And with soy sauce, the gap between those two is the widest in your whole pantry. The brand you trust the most is sitting closer to the bottom of this list than you would ever guess. By the end, you'll be able to read 4 things on any bottle that the industry is betting you'll never learn. A word that quietly means not brewed. A chemical that only appears when they cut the corner. A pair of additives that fake the taste of age. And the 2 words that are the only honest promise on the entire label. 5 brands to throw out. 2 that still do it the slow way. Let's start at number 5. For most of the last century, soy sauce meant one thing. Soybeans, wheat, salt, water, and time. A lot of time. The traditional way is almost boring in how patient it is. You cook the soybeans, roast the wheat, introduce a mold called koji, and then you wait, sometimes the better part of a year, while enzymes slowly take those proteins apart and build hundreds of separate flavor compounds in the process. Then, in the 1960s, American factories found a way around all of it, and the word soy sauce came right along for the ride. Because nothing in the law says a bottle has to be brewed to wear the name. One honesty check before we go in, because it matters. This is not a poison video. Nothing on this list is going to send you to the hospital after one stir-fry. The crime here isn't danger. It's fraud. It's paying for fermentation and getting chemistry instead. Hold on to that frame, because it's the whole difference between being scared and just being impossible to fool. Number 5. Choy. For decades, this was the friendly face of Asian cooking in America. The red label, the word authentic, the bottle that showed up in every grocery store in the country. You trusted it to make a weeknight stir-fry taste like Takeout, and millions of families did exactly that. Now turn the bottle around and read the ingredients, because this is where it gets quiet in a way that tells you everything. You will not find the word brewed. You will not find fermented. What you'll find, right after water and salt, is a phrase, hydrolyzed soy protein. That's your first secret word, hydrolyzed. In plain English, it means the soybeans were never fermented at all. Instead of that slow enzyme process doing its patient work over months, the protein was blasted apart with acid, under heat, in a matter of hours. It's the difference between letting fruit ripen and hitting it with a blowtorch. You end up with something brown and savory-ish, but all the delicate compounds that time would have built simply never form. So corn syrup and caramel color get stirred in afterward to fake the sweetness and the deep brown that real aging earns on its own. And that shortcut leaves a fingerprint. When you break soy protein down with acid instead of thyme, a byproduct can form called 3-MCPD. That's your second secret word. It's the exact compound the UK Food Safety Agency went looking for back in 2001, and in their testing, 22% of the acid-processed soy sauces came back over the level European regulators consider safe. Naturally fermented soy sauce, tested the same way, showed none of it. Not trace amounts. None. The chemical isn't in real soy sauce because there's nothing in real soy sauce for it to form from. It's a signature of the shortcut itself. You can taste that shortcut before you ever read about it. Put a drop of Choy on your tongue straight. It hits sharp and a little metallic, then drops off into a flat, bitter edge that lingers. That's not aged complexity failing to show up. That's what acid tastes like when it stands in for a year of fermentation. Skip the one that was rushed in a factory tank, and keep that word hydrolyzed in your pocket, because you're going to catch it hiding in a much more expensive bottle before this list is over. Number 4. Kikkoman Less Sodium. This one you bought on purpose. Your doctor said watch the sodium, so you reached past the regular bottle and picked up the less sodium version, feeling responsible about your blood pressure. Heart-healthy messaging. Same trusted name. You were doing the right thing. Now, I want to be straight with you here, because there's a story going around the internet about this exact bottle. You've probably seen it, that the less sodium version secretly loads up on potassium chloride, and that it's dangerous if you're on heart medication. I went and read the actual label so I could tell you the truth, and the truth is, that claim is wrong. There is no potassium chloride in it. I'm not going to scare you with something that isn't printed on the bottle, because the whole point of this channel is that the real label is alarming enough without inventing anything. So here's what's actually on it. This is still traditionally brewed, which is the good news, and it's why this bottle isn't higher on the list. But less sodium is a relative word doing a lot of quiet work. 1 tablespoon still carries around 575 milligrams of sodium, roughly a quarter of your entire daily limit, in a single spoon, in the bottle you bought specifically to cut sodium down. Read that in reverse, and it stings a little. To hit your day's limit, you only need about 4 spoonfuls of the low-sodium one. And here's the mechanism nobody explains. In real soy sauce, salt isn't just flavor. Salt is the preservative. It's what keeps the bottle stable on your shelf for a year. So when they pull a chunk of that salt out to make the heart-healthy version, they open a door, and something has to hold that door shut. That's why this bottle adds 2 things the plain brewed one never needs: lactic acid and a preservative called sodium benzoate. The regular Kikkoman is 4 ingredients. This healthier one has more, not fewer. That's the trade nobody mentions on the front. You reached for the responsible choice and got a slightly more processed bottle with a health word painted over the top. Number 3. Great value. This is Walmart's own label, and it is in a huge number of American kitchens, so listen closely, because this might be your bottle. The pitch is right there in the name, value, and the back says naturally brewed, and it costs under $2. Smart shopping, right? Why pay $4 for a name brand when this gives you the same dark color and the same salty hit? Here's the math that doesn't close. Real fermentation takes 6 to 18 months. That's warehouse space rented for over a year, tanks monitored the whole time, batches tested along the way, people paid to watch it age. All of that cost is baked into an honestly brewed bottle. So do the arithmetic out loud. If the slow, real process runs $3 to $4 a bottle just in time and materials, how does this one land on the shelf at $1.89 and still turn a profit? It doesn't, not unless something got cut. And the thing that gets cut is the time. There's an industrial version of fermentation that forces the process with added enzymes and cranked up temperature, compressing what should be many months into a couple of weeks. It's faster and it's cheaper, and it produces a fraction of the flavor compounds real brewing does, which is why the result runs thin and one note. The words naturally brewed are still printed on the label, but a label is a claim, not a clock. Nothing on that bottle proves it sat and aged for a year, and the price is quietly telling you it didn't. Now factor in Walmart's scale for a second. When one buyer can order by the tanker load, it can push suppliers to a price so low that the only way anyone meets it is by racing the fermentation. You're not paying less for the same thing. You're paying less for a faster thing wearing the same word. And speaking of that word, the next bottle on this list is the most expensive one we'll look at. Gold trim, a founding date, the whole Heritage Act. And it's hiding the cheapest trick of all. Number 2. Kum Kee Premium. This is the one you buy when you want to do it right. The elegant bottle, the gold lettering, the traditional characters, since 1888, stamped on like a promise. Premium. You paid $6, maybe $8, because you assumed the price was buying you something the cheap bottles don't have. So let's read what's actually inside that premium bottle. Water, salt, soybeans, sugar, wheat, and then it keeps going. Disodium benzoate, a preservative, and a pair of additives called disodium inosinate and disodium guanylate. Those 2 together are your third secret word, I plus G. They're flavor enhancers, cousins of MSG, and here's why they matter. On their own, they do a little. But drop them next to the natural glutamate already in soy sauce, and they multiply it. They can make salt taste many times louder and rounder than the amount actually in the bottle. That synergy is the entire point. It's a chemical stand-in for the depth that real aging produces for free, and it's the single most common tell that a sauce is papering over a shortcut. Here's the detail that turns this from a shortcut into a choice. Kum Kee also sells a version labeled "No Preservatives Added." They know how to make it clean. They can make it clean. They just didn't in this bottle, and they charged you extra for it anyway. And that's since 1888 on the front? That's the date the recipe was born, not a description of how this liquid was made this year. Heritage marketing points at history, not at the factory. The gold foil isn't paying for better fermentation. It's paying for the story printed on the glass. Underneath, you're buying the same enhanced, preserved chemistry a budget brand would sell you. You're just paying luxury money to feel good about it. Which brings us to number one. And number one isn't a brand you chose at all. It's the bottle you never even bought. Number one, Takeout packets. Those little plastic packets. The ones that come with delivery, that pile up in your drawer, that get handed out by the fistful in cafeterias and care facilities. And here's the thing. What's inside them often isn't soy sauce in any real sense of the word. Turn one over, if it even lists ingredients, and read. Frequently, there are no fermented soybeans in it at all. You get water, salt, corn syrup, hydrolyzed vegetable protein, and caramel color. That's it. That's the whole recipe. No soybeans aging in a tank. No fermentation. Just the acid shortcut and the brown dye, mixed to look the part. It's the same trick as number 5, stripped down to its bones. Colored, salted water, impersonating a craft that took cultures thousands of years to perfect. And the name is the con. It says soy sauce right on the packet. But soy sauce, as a term, doesn't legally require a single soybean to be fermented. So the one product on this entire list with the least actual soy in it is allowed to wear the name the most confidently. Because it's free, it's convenient, and nobody on earth flips a ketchup-sized packet over to read the back. There's a quieter reason these show up everywhere too. They're cheap, they don't spoil, and they're pre-portioned, which makes them perfect for feeding a lot of people on a tight budget. Which is exactly how the fake version ends up on the trays of the people least able to send it back. The worst offender on the list is the one you were handed for nothing and never thought to question. Throw the drawer full out. Now pause the countdown for a second, because none of this is an accident. And once you see the reason, every bottle we just covered snaps onto the same string. Go back to the 1960s. That's when American food factories figured out they could produce something that looked and tasted close enough to soy sauce in hours instead of months, using acid instead of time. The problem was never that they could. The problem is what the law let them call it. In a lot of places, soy sauce simply isn't a protected term. There's no rule forcing the bottle to be brewed to earn the words. So the only phrase on the entire label that actually carries a promise of real fermentation is this: naturally brewed. That's your fourth and final secret word. Not authentic. Not premium. Not traditional. Not even the words soy sauce themselves. Only naturally brewed does the honest work. And it's the one phrase the shortcut bottles are careful never to claim, because claiming it falsely is the one thing that could actually get them in trouble. And the economics only push one way. A tank you can empty and refill in a single day makes money faster than one you fill and wait on for a year. The fast tank wins the shelf. The slow one just makes better soy sauce. Before we get to the two that pass, let me clear up a few things you've probably heard, because half of what floats around about soy sauce is wrong, and it steers you toward the wrong bottle. First myth: the darker it is, the more fermented, and the better it is. False. Caramel coloring is cheap, and it makes thin, chemically produced sauce look as deep and aged as anything on the shelf, instantly. The darkest bottle in the store can easily be the most faked. Second myth: expensive means real. You just watched the $6 to $8 bottle carry the same enhancers as a budget one. Price tells you about packaging and marketing, not about time in the tank. Third myth: low sodium means healthier, full stop. It can mean fewer milligrams of salt and more additives to make up for it. Healthier is a claim about one number, not about the whole label. Fourth myth: reading ingredients is only for health nuts. On this product, the ingredient list is the only thing in the entire store telling you the truth. The front is written by marketing. The back is written by law. So which ones survive their own ingredient label? 2. The first is going to surprise you, because it's a name we already put on this list. Kikkoman Naturally Brewed. Same company that made number 4. And that's exactly the point. It's proof that a brand isn't good or bad. A bottle is. The plain naturally brewed Kikkoman is 4 ingredients: water, soybeans, wheat, salt. No corn syrup, no caramel color, no preservative, no I+G. It goes through that slow koji fermentation instead of the acid shortcut. It earns the 2 words that matter, and it earns them at a completely normal price. Same logo as the bottle we threw out, opposite truth inside. Read the back, not the brand. The second is Yamasa. This is the quiet one most people walk right past. Yamasa has been fermenting soy sauce since 1645 out of Chashi, Japan, and the family that started it, the Hamaguchis, still runs it today. Not a private equity roll-up, not a conglomerate that quietly owns half the other bottles on the shelf. Their list is the same short, honest one: soybeans, wheat, salt, water, and the months it takes. No enhancers standing in for age, because they actually let it age. The winner here isn't the flashiest label or the most expensive glass. It's the one hiding the least. And notice how we picked it, by the exact same standard that sank the losers. Same ruler, both directions. And here's what those extra months actually buy you, so you know it isn't just romance about tradition. Slow fermentation doesn't only build flavor, it builds it in balance. The same enzymes that create all that natural umami also let a real bottle taste deep without leaning on a wall of salt, which is why a properly brewed sauce can carry more flavor per drop at the same or lower sodium. You get the taste the fakes are chemically straining to imitate, and you get it honestly. That's the quiet reward for reading the label. Not fear, not paranoia, just a better bottle for around the same money that does more with less of it. Now let me hand you the tools so you never need me for this again. 3 quick tests you can run tonight. First, the label test, and this is the one that matters most. Flip the bottle over. The word soybeans should be at or near the top of the list, and somewhere on there you want to see naturally brewed. If instead you see hydrolyzed soy protein or corn syrup riding high in the ingredients, you're holding the acid shortcut. That test alone sorts nearly every bottle in this video. Second, the spoon test. Pour a little onto a spoon and tilt it. Real brewed sauce has a slight body. It coats the spoon and shows amber tones at the thin edge. The faked stuff runs off thin and even like colored water, because that's largely what it is. This one isn't proof on its own, but paired with the label, it rarely lies. Third, the shake test. Shake the bottle and watch the foam. A properly brewed sauce tends to throw up a fine, tight foam that holds for a moment before it settles. A quick, big, disappearing froth leans the other way. Treat it as a hint, not a verdict, but it's a fast one, and it costs you nothing. One more thing, because underneath the chemistry, this is really about your money. The faked sauces don't just cost you flavor, they cost you more of themselves. When a bottle is thin and one note, you pour more of it to get the taste you're after, so the cheap bottle empties faster than you'd expect. Run that over a year. A real brewed bottle that costs a couple dollars more but pours with actual depth can outlast 2 of the watered-down ones, while carrying less sodium per drop of flavor. So the bargain bottle quietly charges you twice, once at the register, and again every time you have to reach for it sooner. The $1.89 bottle was never the cheap one. It just moved the cost to where you weren't looking. And that's the pattern under all 5. None of these bottles is trying to hurt you. Every one of them is built for speed, and speed leaves the real story off the front of the label. It gets quietly filed on the back, in the ingredient list, in the one phrase they either earned or avoided. The system isn't lying to you exactly. It's counting on you never reading the fine print out loud. So here's everything you now know, and you didn't 20 minutes ago. You now know that hydrolyzed on a soy sauce label means it was made with acid, not thyme. You now know that 3-MCPD is the byproduct that shortcut can leave behind, and that real fermentation leaves none. You now know that disodium inosinate and guanylate, I+G, are there to fake the taste of age, and that finding them in a premium bottle means you paid extra for a budget trick. You now know that value pricing and month-long aging can't both be true in the same bottle. You now know that pulling salt out of soy sauce means adding preservatives back in. You now know that the packet with the least soy in it is legally allowed to shout the name the loudest. And you now know the only 2 words on the whole label that carry a real promise: naturally brewed. That's the confession, printed in plain sight on the back of every bottle. The whole system was built on a bet that you'd never turn the bottle around and line the pieces up. You just did. That bet is off. So tell me, did your brand make the list? Go back up to that comment you left at the start and see where it landed. I read every single one, and I'll tell you straight whether it stays or goes. And if someone you love just stocked their kitchen with the premium bottle or a drawer full of those packets, send them this before their next dinner. They did everything right too. They just never got to read the back. Next time, we do this to the cooking oil in your cabinet. And that one has an even wider gap between the front of the bottle and the truth behind it. Stay sharp, read the label, and stop letting the front of the bottle do your thinking for you.